I am Prashanth Bharadwaj, the Dean's Associate in the Eberly College of Business and IT. It is my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the panel discussion on the best-selling book that used to be Us by Tom Friedman and Michael Mandelbaum. This is the book that we have picked as the Eberly Common Reader for this year. Since I know that many of you students have not read this book, let me give a quick overview of the book before we start the panel discussion so that you can put the discussion in perspective. Tom Friedman is the same author who wrote The World is Flat in 2005. I have been fortunate to live in this country for nearly 25 years, and more fortunate to have traveled to more than 40-plus countries in every major region of the world. I can tell you confidently that the world is not flat. The United States is up here when it comes to our infrastructure, our open society, our higher education system, our strong political system, our ability to innovate. If you look at all of these, we are way up here. But unfortunately, the rest of the world is catching up very quickly. In addition, Friedman talks about, when he says flat world, he's talking about global markets, global competition, global access to talent, and most importantly, global connectivity. In his own words, today is flat world 2.0, because he says the world has become much flatter in the last 7 years since he wrote the book. The world is flat. Again, he says, when he wrote that book, Facebook did not exist, LinkedIn was a prison, Twitter was just a sound, 4G was just a parking space, cloud was in the skies, application is what you sent to college, and Skype, to most of us, was a typo. Okay? So that is how flat the world has become. That's his words. Today, a climber in the Himalayas, once he or she climbs Mount Everest, can call his or her friends and family and say that I am on Mount Everest. Soon they may be able to Skype. That is how connected we have become. That is how flat the world is. This book is not just about technology. It is about history. It is about economics. It is about our education system. It is about the environment. But most importantly, it is about your future. I'm talking to you students. It is about your future. What does the book mean by that? The book says that the US is facing its biggest challenge in its 225 to 235 years of existence. Yes, the country has gone through the Civil War, the Great Depression, the Second World War, the Cold War, 9/11, competition from many countries, and we have come out on top. However, the competition today by many countries, especially from countries like China, US has never faced this kind of competition before. Your parents' generation may say, in the 1970s and 80s, we had this competition from Japan, and the threat that Japan would overtake us, but that never happened. But believe me, today, the competition is different. The combined competition from China, Japan, India, South Korea, and many other emerging countries is significantly different than anything we have faced in the past. Friedman says that in '91, when the Cold War ended, we thought we came up as victors. That was the mistake, because we did not fully realize when the Cold War ended, we really unleashed the collective aspirations of over 2 billion people who were under communist rule. We did not realize that it was like a champagne bottle that was opened after being shaken for 50 years. They are the ones who are competing with us today. So Friedman says we have been successful throughout our past because of what he calls as 5 pillars of prosperity that US has been able to accomplish. What are they? Quickly, we'll discuss all this in detail. Providing public education to more and more Americans in the past, building and continual modernization of our infrastructure, keeping America's door open to immigration, government support for innovation and research and development, and necessary regulation. These are the 5 things, which we'll discuss in more detail. Then he says that there are 4 challenges facing the country today. Together is the biggest threat that the US has ever faced. How to adapt to accelerating globalization, how to adjust to the information technology revolution, how to cope with large soaring deficits, finally, how to manage a world of both rising energy consumption and rising climate threats. These are the 4 things which we'll discuss. Finally, before I start the discussion, he says, China is not our problem, neither is it our solution. We are our problem, we are our solution. He says that China is getting 90% out of its vastly inferior political system, whereas we in the United States, unfortunately, are getting less than 50% out of our rather superior political system. So we got to get our politics right. I want to talk about this cartoon that I saw. You all probably remember, if you watched Super Bowl, which hopefully all of you did, during the halftime, Clint Eastwood was on for Detroit and for Chrysler, and he said it is halftime in America. There was a lot of probably political subliminal message, and the rest of the next 2 months until yesterday, people are talking about that, about halftime in the United States. But what I want you to focus on is the next part of that cartoon, which this gentleman, seeing the recession, trade deficit, debt, China, he is saying it seems more like the 2-minute warning. Tom Friedman is saying exactly the same thing. In the United States, it is right now like 2-minute warning, and we are trailing. The good news, folks, is that we have Joe Montana and Tom Brady on our side. We know how to win during the 2-minute warning period also, even when we are trailing. So with that background, let us talk about what this book is talking about, how US was, how it is, and how we can safeguard our future. Thank you.